Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Fowl Balls, coming to you live from my home. This is Collyn Taylor, South Carolina baseball beat writer, joined this week by no intern Joe. He is off working the Masters for school, but we bring back our featured celebrity shot guest host, Jack Veltri, who helps us out with our baseball coverage from top to bottom. Jack, we appreciate you hopping back on and letting this not be a solo show on my end. And thank you so much for being here for the next hour or so.
I'm honored that you think of me as a celebrity. That makes me feel so special deep down.
Yes.
So, but no, for real, I'm always happy to join. And I hope Joe has a grert week again at the Masters. He went last year and always told me it was a blast. So hopefully he has a nice week there.
Yeah, I've never gotten to go to Augusta. That is a place that I still need to get to during this week in early April. But one thing I do know a lot about is Clint Hammond, who is the title sponsor of Gamecock Central here. Clint Hammond, everything you need from a home buying perspective is there for you. He is the branch manager at the Movement Mortgage Network. You see all of his information there. His NMLS number. He supports Gamecock Central and what we want to do. We ask you to support the people that support us. Clint Hammond is a great Gamecock, great guy to get to know and understand. And if you're looking to buy a home, if you're looking to sell a home, Clint has you covered. You have all of his information right there. His information will be at the top of the broadcast the entire time if you want to go and jot his number down while we talk some Gamecock baseball. But Clint Hammond, everything you need from home buying to home selling to anything in between, he has got you covered. Hit up Clint if you are in the market to buy a home, sell a home. Like we said, I've repeated myself 5 or 6 times since then. But Clint, fantastic as always. And as I start to do this, you can see the Clint Hammond information right up there as I get used to our StreamYard. Joe's typically the one running the show behind the scenes, so he's used to this, and this is my first time. So if you see a glitch, it ain't on me. Don't blame me. Jack, South Carolina. You wrote the game stories for the Game 2 Friday, Game 3 Saturday. I followed along, wrote the game story for Thursday's game. Gamecocks don't play their best ball, but what they do is escape Starkville for their first series win at Duty Noble Stadium for the first time since 2011. What are some things that you noticed as you got to take in 14, or no, it would have been 16 innings of baseball over those 2 games?
Yeah, when you told me, I think it was on Friday or whatever day it was, that they hadn't won a series there since 11 and plus 3 straight SEC series to start the year since 2011. That's pretty crazy. I didn't realize that, to be honest. I knew they had struggled against Mississippi State in the past, but definitely was expecting a different outcome this year just because Mississippi State is not as good as they used to be, honestly. And South Carolina is just continuing to trend upwards. But coming into the series, when we had Andrew Eyster on last week, we kind of talked about it could have been a trap series for South Carolina. And give Mississippi State credit, they played really well this weekend. They hit the ball hard, made good plays. Man, that lineup, honestly, I know the record isn't that good, but honestly, they impressed me. Like, some of those guys in that order, they are crazy good. Yeah. And I saw it firsthand on Friday night when South Carolina got run ruled for the first time this year. But coming back the next day on Saturday and putting together that performance, it wasn't the prettiest game through 7 innings, but come that 8th, 9th inning, they turned it on. South Carolina scored 10 runs in those final 2 innings, and they really showed, that they're one of the top 10 teams in the country. They're number 6 right now, and rightfully so. So, yeah, I'm satisfied with the results from this weekend. It wasn't the greatest weekend. They could have played a lot better, but, you'll take wins in the SEC as they come. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And it says something about this team to where you can maybe have, quote, unquote, an off weekend. You don't play maybe your best ball, especially that Game 2. You give up a few more homers, you give up a few more extra base hits as a staff than you normally do, but you get out of Starkville with a win, with series win, that is. You do it on the back of some clutch hitting Thursday night, some clutch pitching late, and no Will Sanders in the rotation. You do that without your, projected ace in your rotation, and Noah Hall only giving you almost not even getting into the third inning.
I think it was 2 2/3.
2 2/3. I mean, if you had told me, 2 weeks ago, hey, Will Sanders isn't going to pitch against Mississippi State and Noah Hall's only going to give you 2 2/3, you're probably thinking South Carolina struggles and maybe even drops the series, but they didn't. You got really good pitching, which we'll talk about Chris Veach and James Hicks and all those guys here in a second, but solid, not great, but good bullpen pitching on the games you won. The offense showed some timeliness to it, especially late on Saturday. They kind of countered punches every time Mississippi State, in those games they won, every time Mississippi State countered, South Carolina put up a counter punch, and then responded with obviously those 2 really big innings to end it. Are you concerned at all as you kind of look ahead? Because the Murderer's Row starts here Thursday night with Paul Skeens coming in, and we'll talk about that. But was there anything that concerned you over the course of those 25 innings?
Yeah, there is something that's not just this series, but just in general, is, we knew this lineup could be really dangerous at the beginning of the season, and they've shown to be so far. They hit the home runs, they get the timely hits every now and then. But one thing that's always concerned me, and I think it was kind of displayed more on Sunday, even though they won pretty big, I think they had maybe like 16 strikeouts. I can't remember.
They struck out 17 times on Thursday night, game 1. Yeah, game 1, they struck out 17 times.
Yeah. So the one thing that's always concerned me with this team, and it even dates back to last year because it was more, evident last year, is leaving guys on base and striking out a ton. That's something that is a bad recipe for disaster. It just doesn't work out, in the long run. And pitching, I think, wins championships. We see this in Major League Baseball every year, and even college baseball. If you want to make that run all the way through Omaha, you got to have good pitching. And I think the pitching for South Carolina is solid, but I would love to see the hitting, improve a little bit more. Stop leaving so many guys on base, maybe, and then cut down the strikeouts as much as you can. But I mean, I think it was Friday, even though they lost 13-3, I think they only had 6 strikeouts, and I can't remember exactly how many guys they left on base, but it really didn't matter because they lost by 10 runs. But cut down on those strikeouts and draw more walks, get more hits with runners in scoring position, and my confidence will be fully, restored in this team. And it's not to say that they're not a great hitting team. They're solid. They just, that stuff worries me when they will play the bigger teams down the road.
Yeah, I agree. The thing that I think they gave up 9 earned runs to, committed 5 errors over 25 innings, which is not great. You'd like to obviously see that improve, and the defense we knew was going to maybe be up and down, have some good series and some bad. And didn't have a great weekend defensively. I'll be interested to see how that responds because they've shown flashes of being a really good defensive team over the course of the first, 5 weeks, 6 weeks of the season. Yeah, if you're South Carolina, you hit, in your first 2 games, you go 5 for 22 with runners in scoring position in that series. You go 8 for 21, your final game, which is really good. You hit 381. But you'd like to see that improve. You only had 6 at-bats Friday night in game 2 with runners on base, which needs to improve. You only got the leadoff man on 1 time in that loss. And over the course of the weekend, you strand 30 batters in 3 games. So, yes, when you get on base a ton, like South Carolina's offense is designed to do, you're going to strand guys. When you work counts, you're going to strike out some. But you'd like to see South Carolina taking advantage of the pitches. There were a couple times where they took good pitches to hit. You'd like to see that improve, but really the only thing is probably the strikeouts. You'd like to see that improve. But if you're South Carolina, you hit 5 for 9 with a runner on third and less than 2 outs. That's really good. You only had 3 at-bats against left-handed pitching, but for the most part, it was pretty solid. You would like to see them hit better with runners or with 2 outs. South Carolina's only 7 for 30 with 2 outs, which is probably what you'd expect given the 2-outness of it, but you'd like to see that improve some. If you're South Carolina, yeah, that, and then just get that bullpen back to where it was, where James Hicks gave up, a bomb on Thursday. There's some, you give credit to Mississippi State. I thought Mississippi State played really well. You saw flashes of what that team could be, without the injuries. This team always could hit. The hitting was never the issue there. But the question becomes can you get healthy on the pitching side of it? And they showed some flashes, I think. I don't think that team at the end, I think they're going to be players. I think South Carolina's probably happy they got this Mississippi State team when they did, because they're slowly starting to get healthier. And I think they're going to be, I don't know if they're a regional team, just given how far behind the 8 ball they are right now. Yeah. But they're a team that I think will be playing better late than they were maybe through the first 3, with coming back from injuries and getting guys maybe a little bit healthier, if we're looking at this projecting over the next 7 weeks. But as we like to do with the South Carolina team, the focus is going to be on the offense. And we talked about the strikeouts. Offense and defense, this was the first full series without Will McGillis. What did we think about Braswell at second for, I believe, all 3 games? Yeah. And what do we think as we move forward into these next 3 against top 5 opponents, what that might look like?
Yeah, I thought Michael Braswell played pretty well this weekend. He had some nice hits. He did strike out a little bit, and so did everyone, to be honest. Honestly, right. I think they made Mississippi State's pitching look a lot better than it really is. I think other teams, I think it was Vanderbilt the week before, they killed them. And I think South Carolina just made some not so amazing pitchers look better than they probably were. And that bullpen too. That bullpen's just not that good. But
yeah. But give credit to South Carolina for getting to it. And
yeah. I think I can't even remember how many pitching changes Mississippi State made in those final 2 innings, but it felt like every 5 minutes, commercial break to go bring in a new guy. But that's all besides the point. This is about Michael Braswell. He played pretty well this weekend. He hit middle of the order, which I think is a good spot for him. I know I was saying last week, he should probably hit leadoff and all this stuff because he did that last year. But
Brandon Wilmer settled into it just fine.
We'll talk a lot about him in a bit, but I like Braswell middle of the order, and I think he looked pretty good at second base. I mean, I think he's better there than he has been at third base. I mean, he looked good there, and I would continue to stick with him. So as long as McGillis is out, just keep sticking with him. And I think every now and then get Will Tippett in there to, create a little more balance in that lineup that, lefty, righty, whatever, however you want him to hit. Bottom of the order, put him in there maybe midweek. We'll see what they do tomorrow. Maybe they'll throw him in there and Braswell maybe at third. Who knows? But, yeah, I like the way Braswell performed, and he's a solid guy to have if you have someone down. Now, as for the next 3 series, it's going to be a real, challenge, I think, for him. But I think he's up to it. Last year, as we all know, he really did struggle in SEC play. I think he maybe hit just above the Mendoza line last year in SEC play. A big difference from what he hit overall. I think it was 284. He's got to be able to read the ball and see the ball a lot better and, not be so far behind. His swing's a little long, especially last year. But if he can cut down on those strikeouts and hit the ball, put it in play, it might go through. I mean, South Carolina hit the ball so hard this weekend, and it just wasn't getting through. And he was one of those guys. So if he can hit the ball and find a gap or something, I think he's going to be really critical to this team the next few weeks. But we'll see. It starts this weekend with a very tough matchup with LSU. So if he's up to the challenge, he'll be solid.
I agree. And I think that's the thing too with Braz. You can play him at right now, he's probably going to anchor either at third, depending on what he does there, or at second, where he's been. And, it depends on what you want to do with Talmadge LeCroy. Depends on how LeCroy's playing. There's a lot of things that go into it. So I didn't mind him there. And I thought he gave you some good at bats. Did strike out 5 times and 14 at bats, if I'm doing my box score math correctly. But scored twice, had an RBI, had 2 doubles. So both to the opposite field, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So you're seeing signs of growth there. He's playing pretty well. He's been a left side of the infielder forever for his entire career because he's played a ton of short and a ton of third. So he's getting used to second. If they keep giving him reps there, I think he'll get more comfortable. But I didn't hate what I saw from him, and you got a really good contribution from him as, he did it. He walked. He didn't walk, I don't believe, but, 2 doubles, got on base, did some good things, hit the ball hard. And I think that was the story Friday, even in the loss. They hit the ball hard, and it just kind of found gloves, didn't get down, and that kind of led to the loss. And then obviously the pitching didn't go all that well. But yeah, if you're South Carolina, you're probably going to stick with him. You might have Will Tippett come in there too, but we'll see. Well, I think you're starting to get some answers and kind of treading water until McGillis comes back, and it's not a bad place to go if you're a guy like if you have an option off your bench like Michael Braswell, which is impressive. Kind of shifting because I'm in the show notes here. It says, what do we like? What do we not like? We kind of touched on that already. Guys who impressed you. We'll get to hitters in the series here in a second. Who are some guys that you going into the series maybe weren't thinking enough about or had a bad week the week prior and you left and said, okay, I saw something over these 3 games with them?
Yeah. I think the guy that stands out the most to me right now is Dylan Brewer, the Clemson transfer. He had a fantastic weekend. Doesn't get talked enough. Let's see how he did overall this weekend.
I got the numbers.
Yeah, pull him up. He was so good every game this series, and I love him and Stone at the bottom of the order. I think those are the 2 guys that have really stood out to me this weekend. And
you stole my Stoney pick. On that.
I'll let you talk about him. So go more in depth on him and all that. But yeah, Brewer, man, he was solid this weekend.
Yeah, 100%. And Brewer went 5 for 8 with one of those hits being a double, another being a home run. He stole a base, got hit by a pitch, walked not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times. He walked 5 times over the course of this weekend. Drove in 3, scored 4 runs. Was doing everything. And that's what this offense is designed to be, right? You get these bottom of the order guys who give you on base percentage, who give you a chance. And then you got Braylon Wimmer, Gavin Costas, Cole Messina, Ethan Petrie behind them to go drive in those runs. But left impressed with Brewer. Stone, those struggles early in the season you've heard all about. Goes 3 for 10, 3 runs, an RBI, 3 walks, struck out 4 times and stole a base. But that's what you need from Stoney. That's what you need from that guy as you project ahead. You don't need him, if you're South Carolina, to be a 350 hitter with 10 bombs. You need him to be in that, batting in the 260, 270 range probably at worst. Then getting on base at a pretty good clip, walking, stealing bases, putting pressure on defenses, drag bunting, and that's what gives you that momentum moving forward. And if you're South Carolina, you got exactly what you needed out of those 2 guys with Carson Horning out, which, again, we'll talk about here in a second as we look ahead and try to kind of evaluate. But left really impressed with Evan Stoney and Dylan Brewer both.
Yeah, if those guys, this lineup's already really good at the top, but man, if you can be good 7 through 9, this team has the potential to tear up any pitching staff. I don't care who it is. If you have guys that can hit, like you said, 260, 270 at the bottom of the order, drive in runs, get hit by a pitch, maybe walk, do the little things right, you're gonna be fine. So I know I talk about how much this team strikes out and they don't hit well with runners in scoring position and all that. But if you can get guys like Brewer and Stone that can hit really well at the bottom of the order like they are right now, watch out. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, and they've been okay. They're actually hitting. I think a lot of it gets made. You're so used to seeing this team strike out a ton, but they're hitting an SEC play 311 with runners on base, and 282 with runners in scoring position. So not terrible. You'd like to see some maybe less strikeouts with runners in scoring position, but they're getting some good at bats at times with runners on. It's kind of feast or famine. Like I'm going through it. There's some days where they'll hit 238 with runners on or 263, and then other days where it's 381, 308, 333, 400. They hit 400 with runners on Saturday. So they're getting pieces of that. And if you had some length, like last year's lineup just did not have any length to it. You get past Brant Belk and Braylon Wimmer and Josiah Saylor and Andrew Eister, and then it's just a ton of freshmen going through it for the first time.
Exactly.
So that's why the offense bogged down last year. And now you have, you're the starting, you're for Braylon Wimmer. What do we think of him in the leadoff spot? 2 leadoff tanks on I think the first pitch of the game in both.
First pitch of the game. On Twitter, I had to make sure that it's not a duplicate tweet or whatever. It's not the same tweet. Like it even took me a second to be like, I'm just getting settled into the game on my couch. I'm like, wait, he hit the ball on Friday. He hit the ball to right field first pitch. It was a bomb, and then he does the same exact thing on Saturday to right field again. Right. He's honestly a solid leadoff hitter. I think in a perfect world, if you have like the best leadoff hitter imaginable, you can move Wimmer down to that 2, 3, 4 hole where you probably want him to be with like runners in scoring position and stuff, driving in guys, hitting 3-run homers and all that. But I love him at the top of the order. I love him at the leadoff spot. I really can't see a ton of other guys fitting in there as well as he has. And I think this weekend kind of just proved it. I know he struggled on Thursday. I'm always getting mad.
I don't like the Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Where you're having to talk about it like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I know he struggled on Thursday, but Friday and Saturday, just right from the start, he set the tone, and they played well with him at the top of the order. So I say keep him there, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, and we'll see what that looks like. I love him in the 2 spot in that order because it pushes Casas back to the 3 spot. Then it pushes either Petri or Messina back down to the cleanup spot, and you add some more length to the lineup if it's a McGillis or a Denny or when Hornung's healthy. But right now he's probably your best option there just because he does have speed. He can hit for power. He can go backside. He can steal a base or 2. But I think ideally you'd like to have him in the 2 hole. He was impressive, and I know the defense wasn't great this past weekend, but this is probably one of, if McGillis is out, this is probably your best defensive outfield, if that makes, or defensive just in general.
Yeah.
Maybe Braswell. If McGillis is out, this is probably your best defense, period. With Messina at catcher, Casas, flip-flop Lee Croy and Braswell interchangeably, probably. Wimmer at short, and then left to right, Denny, Stone, Brewer. Is that your take, or do you think something else?
No, I agree. And let me also point out, I know we just talked about how good of a leadoff hitter Wimmer was, but oh my God, he was so good at shortstop this week.
There were a couple plays that he made that were really impressive. Now
he made like some diving stops and stuff. He was just like was like a magnet over there. It was crazy seeing how good he is at short. I love him there much better than at second. I think he played a little bit of outfield early on in his career, so I think shortstop is definitely the right position for him. And I'm happy to see that he's made that fall adjustment because I know last year he struggled in the fall at short. So I'm glad to see that it's finally all clicking for him as he, gets ready to hopefully embark on what is a good professional career after the season if he decides to go.
And he's going to have some growing pains. He had some this weekend. I mean, there was a ball tapped to him Thursday night that he takes too long to get to first in the ninth inning and allows the runner to have an infield hit. Then, commits an error on, what was that? I guess game 2. So Friday. All these days are running together. But he's been as advertised through the first 30 games of the season at short. And that was his challenge because he played it last fall and he struggled. And they had to, move Braswell there. And props to him for coming back and really taking that next step and being a highlight reel at times at short. Really impressive to see from him. As we transition, before we get out of the offense, it is time for hitters of the series. And there are a few options. Mr. Veltri, I will allow you to go first on this one.
Yeah. As if I haven't already talked enough about him. My pick for this week is Braylon Wimmer. Woo! Okay. All right. Anyway. So this weekend, despite going 0 for 5 on Thursday, 0 for 5. Let's just put that out there. The rest of the weekend, in total, he hit 5 for 12. So that's 5 for 7 down the stretch. That's really freaking good. He hit 2 homers. Obviously, they were the leadoff bombs to start the day. He almost had another one, too, on Saturday. I think it was maybe the 8th. No, it was the 9th inning. He started the rally in the 9th inning when they were up by 3, and Mississippi State had just loaded the bases because of an error. And that's another thing this weekend. South Carolina took advantage of all the defensive mistakes and hit by pitch.
They've been actually pretty good about that all season.
Yeah. The bullpen for Mississippi State, I'm not understating it. Mississippi State's bullpen, I'll just be straight up, is not good. So they really did take advantage of that weakness with the hit by pitches, drawing walks, and getting on base with errors. So, kudos to South Carolina's lineup for doing that. But back to Wimmer, like I said, 5 for 7 in those last 2 games, 2 bombs, almost had another one in the 9th inning. That's kick-started that 7-run inning in the 9th inning. But yeah, he played really well this weekend, drove in a lot of runs, and he even played, as I said before, really well defensively. And I love him at the top of the order. So, yeah, that is my pick for this week. And Mr. Taylor, what you got?
Cole Messina.
Good choice.
And we talked Ethan Petrie. I will give a shout out to Ethan Petrie. I can't pick Ethan every week. I mean, that dude.
It's tough not to pick him.
5 for 12, three runs scored, 5 RBI. Had the huge hit Saturday to, I think, bust the game open.
Yeah, it was a 3-run double in the 8th.
Yeah, the go-ahead hit or they were trailing, and it was the tie-breaking hit, if I'm not mistaken. They were tied, and he ripped that and struck out 5 times, had a double, a home run, and a hit by pitch.
Yep.
I give credit, SEC Freshman of the Week, Ethan Petrie. That fantastic. Great work. I picked Cole Messina because he struggled last week. He did not have a great Missouri series, and he responds by going 4 of 11 from the plate with 3 runs, 4 RBI, a walk, 3 strikeouts, a double, a home run, 2 hit by pitches, and 2 stolen bases. And had that big, I want to say it was a 2-run shot, if my memory serves.
I think it was, yeah.
On Thursday night to break a tie and kind of put the game away and give South Carolina the lead. And that was huge. I mean, he finds ways to get big swings off, and South Carolina doesn't win the series without a guy like Cole or Ethan Petrie or Braylon Wimmer, but Cole was really instrumental in that big swing Thursday and follows it up with solid days Friday and Saturday as well. So good on Cole, and that's hopefully for South Carolina something to come as you get into this stretch with, LSU, which we'll talk about, Vandy, and then Florida back at home and over that 3-week stretch. But As we transition, as we always do, it's time to talk about the pitching. But first, a message from our friends over at Liberty Tax, because it is tax season. And if you have taxiety, now is the time to come over and check out our friends over at Liberty Tax, a brighter way to do taxes. You see their number right there, 803-462-5576. And taxiety is that uncertain feeling you get right before doing your taxes, but you don't have to go through it alone. The tax team at Liberty Tax in Irma, Lexington, and Columbia will walk you through the process, clear up any confusion, guarantee you'll get the best possible refund or your money back. It's tax time. If you're in a hurry for your refund, call the tax team at Liberty Tax. Fast, accurate, guaranteed. On the other hand, if you think you might be owing Uncle Sam, talk to the Liberty Tax team to make sure you're not paying more than you should owe. They'll find every possible deduction for you. It's locally owned and operated, staffed by tax professionals from your neighborhood. They know this community. They're open 9 to 9 on weekdays, 9 to 5 on Saturdays. You got a couple options here. You can start through the Liberty Tax mobile app or through the desktop portal. You can make an appointment. You can just walk in. You can give them a call and upload your tax documents when you come in, and your return will be ready to review and sign. So can't recommend the tax team over at Liberty Tax enough, and they are a great sponsor of everything Gamecock Central does. So we certainly appreciate them and all they do to help us out. So with that being said, we will now shift over as we come back from our lovely ad read and talk about South Carolina's pitching, which was good on Thursday, good at times on Saturday, not good in the middle, but did enough to get the job done.
Indeed. Yeah. They definitely pitched well this weekend well, I shouldn't say they pitched well this weekend. As you said, they kind of struggled a little bit. That Friday game was probably their worst game of the year. I know Noah Hall, Mark Kingston said before the Saturday game, his back kind of locked up on him, which makes a little more sense behind his struggles. He only went 2 2/3.
Do you need your back to pitch? Is your back an important part of pitching?
I mean, I think you need any part of your body.
Do you need your core and your back to be an effective pitcher?
I don't know, man. I'm not a pitching expert. Sources tell me you might need it.
Yeah, sources say you might need your back at times.
Yeah. He's gonna need it this weekend. So
yes.
He's carried the team on his back a lot this season. So anyway, all jokes aside, Friday was kind of a mess to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
You got a lot of young guys in there though, which was always good to see. I hated to see Trey Wheeler kind of struggle a lot there, leading to the mercy rule, the run rule, as you know it's called. And then Saturday, I was a little nervous to see how they were going to respond. I figured Jack Mahoney would pitch really well, and he exceeded my expectations. I almost thought at one point, it was like the third inning, I'm like, wow, this guy might throw like a no-hitter today or something. Like, it's always in the back of my mind. Like, his stuff was that freaking good, and I'll elaborate more on it later. Maybe we'll see. But the rest of the pitching staff, James Hicks was solid. Our guy, Chapin native, Chris Veach, solid this weekend.
Yes,
I know you will talk a lot about him. He was good, and let me see who else pitched.
James Hicks had some moments. Obviously, gave up that tank in Thursday's game, but responds after that, gets out of it, and then gives up 1 run over 2 2/3, 4 hits, 4 Ks. Really good piece if you're South Carolina moving forward.
100%.
Because with Noah Hall, you don't know if that back's going to be able to respond the right way over the course of. You get a week to prepare. But you just don't know what that might look like.
That might change things for this week.
Right. So, is Noah going to be able to pitch? What does that look like? And if he doesn't, which we can talk about in a little bit, but do you start James Hicks? Do you start Eli Jones again? What goes into those decisions? And that's the question. But James Hicks was really good for spurts. Made that one mistake pitch, but was once again just really solid. That curveball Chris Veach threw on, what was that, Thursday night?
Yeah.
Holy moly. I literally wrote holy moly in our show notes. Like, holy moly. The movement on that thing where it just like comes down in the zone. And I mean, the guy literally, like, you saw his knees lock up because he had no idea what the hell to do. He's been so impressive. And I mean, you and I talked before the season and we're like, listen, Chris Veach will be a piece, he might not be a go-to guy early. We'll see what it looks like. But when you're talking about this pitching staff, it was Will Sanders, Noah Hall, Jack Mahoney, Matt Becker, Kate Austin. I'm trying to think of some other ones that we had, but like you had to get down the list before you got to a guy like Chris Veach.
Yeah.
And maybe he's been your best bullpen. Like him and James Hicks are probably your two best bullpen options right now. And it's been really impressive to watch him go to work. And he's got good velo. He's got good movement. He's got the swagger about him.
Oh, my gosh. The McGregor walk.
There's a level of confidence that he has about himself because he's seen it. And, he's in that 90, low to mid 90s on his fastball with a really good break on his breaking ball. And he's feeling it. He's really feeling it. And that's – if he can do that the rest of the way, if he can give you that and James Hicks can continue to pitch well and Kate Austin can give you good innings, same with Becker. And this bullpen has a chance to be – I mean, statistically it probably is one of the best bullpens in the country, but that needs to continue, obviously, through this stretch. But they weren't as good this weekend – pitching out of jams. Going into it, South Carolina been great. Pitching out of jams. But Mississippi State was 19. I mean, they hit 5 for 18 with runners on Thursday, 9 for 20, and then 5 for 17. With runners in scoring position, they were 3 for 14 on Thursday, but 8 for 23 the next 2 days. Hit 300 or better the next 2 days. So you'd like to see some situational stuff, some pitchability out of jams get better, but they've been great at that through the first 6. So you have to think, is that an aberration? Is this weekend an aberration, or is this a thing of signs to come? And we'll see. But this pitching staff, man, it wasn't a great weekend for them, but they did just enough to win that game and move forward. And now we get to talk about the big one. Yeah. Now we get to talk about, all right, before we do, I'm getting way ahead of myself. Your pitcher of the series, sir.
Yeah, so my pitcher of the series, I probably would have picked Chris Veach, but
I got to fill out the sheet first.
Yeah.
I get to fill out the sheet first.
I know. But for diversity's sake, spreading it out a little bit more with different guys. Pitching wasn't that great this weekend, as we've kind of talked about. But one guy that besides one bad inning, he was so good, and that is Sunday starter, but in this case Saturday, Mr. Jack Mahoney.
Yes.
What'd you say?
Game 3 starter.
Game 3 starter, yeah.
I'm conditioning myself now with all these Thursday through Saturdays.
Yeah, the Game 3 guy.
Yes.
Jack Mahoney. He was so – like, I'm not even joking. He was so freaking good. That's why I thought he honestly might throw like a no-hitter today. His stuff was that good. He didn't rack up a ton of strikeouts. I think he only had like 4 this weekend.
Three Ks.
Yeah.
But
his stuff, his off-speed was phenomenal. Hitters were chasing it. They couldn't catch up with it. His fastball, he looked really freaking good. He didn't allow a hit those first 3 innings. And then the 4th, he got into a little bit of trouble, worked out of it rather quickly. I think there was a big double play started by Wimmer. And then 5th inning, unfortunately, or not the 5th inning, 6th inning, kind of worked himself into a jam. His pitch count, surprisingly, I think entering the 6th was under 50, which
he threw 55 pitches in his outing. Only threw 55 pitches.
Yeah, which makes me think, shoot, if you need him to go like in an inning or something, tight situation like this week, throw him in there. He might be able to. But yeah, that 6th inning was rough. He had the bases loaded and couldn't get out of it, which they turned it over to Chris Veach with no outs. And credit to him, it's a tough situation for Veach, but he made the most of it. getting out of it. I think with only, I think
Yeah,
Mississippi
he
State
allowed 2 runners to score.
Yeah,
2
I
of
think
those 3 inherited.
he served up a homer, but
Yeah.
I don't know if those runs were all earned to him. But yeah, Mahoney, outside of that, getting into jams in the last 2 innings he pitched, he was so good. He's really proven himself to be a phenomenal pitcher on the staff. I was a little curious to see how he'd do, because I thought maybe there's other guys that could, Becker or somebody like that, maybe Eli Jones that can step into that 3 spot. But yeah, Jack's really shown out this year. He pitches with confidence, and it shows on the field. And he did really well on Saturday. So yeah, that is my pitcher of the week.
The more I thought about it, the more I'm going to go a little curveball here on my lefty. I'm going to go Eli Jones. I had Chris Beach in there, but the more I thought about it, the more, he gives up those 2 earned, he inherits 3, gives up 2 of those 3 inherited runners. But I'll say this, Eli Jones in his first SEC start, period, on the road in Starkville, 3 hits, 1 earned, 1 walk, 2 Ks in 4 innings. That was exactly what you wanted from him.
And game 1 of that series too.
Yeah, against that lineup, which we saw over the course of the next few days and after Jones left, they can hit now. That's an offense that has impressed me. So give Eli a ton of credit, man. There's nothing else to say. 53 pitches. I'm looking at it right now. 34 of those for strikes. Only walked 1. Had some confidence about him. And now, as we transition to our final segment, as we look ahead to what's going to be it's going to be such a fun week, weather permitting, obviously. Eli, if Noah can't go on Friday, whatever his back situation is, do you start Eli again on Thursday and get Will on Friday?
Oof, that's
you have some options if Hall can't go. You put Jones back on a week normal rest. Sanders gets another day off, and he doesn't have to go against Paul Skeens. You're thinking about, Eli can give you now. LSU's lineup is, just Trey Morgan, Dylan Cruz. You're talking about the hitter of the year in the conference probably, and the pitcher of the year in the conference probably on that LSU squad right now, as things stand right now.
There's a reason they're number 1 in the country right now.
Right. There's a reason why they're number 1 in the country. And it's one of those things where if you're South Carolina, do you start Eli Jones? All right, Jack, what would you do? If let's say 2 scenarios. Noah Hall's healthy and can pitch, and Noah Hall's not healthy, his back's too banged up, he can't get his scheduled start in against LSU. What do you do in both situations?
Oh, okay. Let's say Noah Hall is good to go, which I'm not sure if he will be. I'm leaning more towards maybe they skip a start. I don't know. But let's say
he's healthy. It's such a weird, you could wake up tomorrow morning and the back feels great, and then you can wake up the next morning and it's just not. So we really won't know probably until his game time approaches Friday night. Yeah. Or his scheduled start time would approach Friday night.
And maybe we'll find out more tomorrow from Kingston, but who knows. But let's say he's ready to go, healthy. Honestly, this might not be the popular pick because everyone, I'm sure, loves Will Sanders. And, I think what you do Thursday, you start Eli, and then just piggyback Will Sanders. I think Eli realistically is probably going to do what he did against Mississippi State. Might be a little more damage. I think he can get through 4 innings. And I think South Carolina is going to be in it at that point. And then I think if Will is ready to go, it's a different spot for him. Pitching in the bullpen versus starting is so much different because of the preparation that you have to do. But I think a guy like Will can handle it, and it'll really impress a lot of guys. I think if he can go out there and do well as not a reliever, in a relief spot, but he's a guy that can go the rest of the way, and you preserve the bullpen also.
Almost like an opener. You'd almost use Eli Jones as kind of an opener.
Exactly. Studies have shown that openers, it tends to work. Look at the Rays. You wonder why they're so good every year. They don't have all the talent in the world, but they use openers every now and then, and it works for them. And it messes up hitters and stuff because you have to adjust. You have to put your lineup in as one thing with lefties and righties, and then you bring another guy in, you're screwed. So I think that's the case with Will Sanders. I think he could definitely be a piggyback guy, get his confidence back up, and then I think you go Hall on Friday and Mahoney Mahoney on Saturday.
Yeah.
But let's say Hall is hurt. Well, that's a situation I'd hate to be in if I were Mark Kingston.
Right.
However, I think you go Eli Thursday. I think you go Will on Friday, and then you go Saturday Mahoney. That way, like you said, Will doesn't have all the pressure of going up against arguably the best pitcher in the country right now, all that. And then if he stinks and isn't good, then the narrative is, oh, he's not that good. He's overrated, this and that. But if he goes out there, if South Carolina wins or loses on Thursday, he goes out there Friday night and shoves, man, his confidence is going to be through the roof. And he'll be talked about again as, the guy that can pitch against the best team in the country. So I think that's what I would do. But hopefully Hall is healthy, ready to go. And then maybe, I don't know. I mean, you really could go Will on Thursday, but I just don't know if that's the best decision right now after not pitching him at all this past weekend.
Yeah, if Hall is healthy, I'm probably going Will Thursday, Hall, and then Jack.
Yeah,
I think that's fair. And then you go Eli the first out of the pin on. I don't hate your idea of going opener with Eli and then have a Will come in behind that. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
But I would probably go Eli on Thursday or Sanders Thursday, then Hall, then Mahoney if Hall can go. And if not, then I do exactly what you said. I go Eli against Skeens on Thursday. Yeah. Then you go Sanders, you put him on Friday, then you give him his normal rest going into the Vanderbilt series. 100%. You get him back on that week to week rotation, or however that might look, and then you go. Mahoney's going to more than likely be your game 3 guy, so that's how I would do it. But who knows? We're not paid the big bucks to make those decisions. But I have 4 bullet points that I'd like to discuss. Yeah. The first is I'll exclude one word from the question, but how much fun is this weekend going to be with this is what baseball at South Carolina is supposed to be. 2 top 10 teams. South Carolina is on the fringe of the top 25. They're 6th in both major polls. How much fun is this going to be?
Deep down, I am so jealous that you are covering all 3 games, but that is not the Jedi way. So that is not the way. Anger, hatred, all that stuff. It's not the way. So, as a normal functioning human being, this series is going to be so good, so good. I don't think coming into the season, I don't think many people probably thought that South Carolina would be they should be top 5 in the country. Let's be real. But top 6 in the country.
They're top. Both teams are top 5 in the RPI. Yeah, both teams are top 5 in the RPI right now.
Yes. I think after this feels like, in football they say game of the century, all that stuff. This is like series of the century type stuff. You have 2 of the best pitching staffs, 2 of the best offenses in the country. It's going to be so much fun. Now I'm more curious to see if it's more offensive heavy or more pitching heavy. I think game 1, because of who LSU has on the mound, it's going to be more pitcher heavy. And I think South Carolina will need a walk-off to probably win that game. It's going to come down to the bullpens, I think, at the end of the day. That's kind of the X factor, I think.
You got to get Skeens out of there early. That dude's – Now, if you hit Skeens, this offense from being here – that dude's impressive how good he's been.
Oh, my gosh. He's been so good. But, it's going to be electric. I hope to God it's sold out. And I hope the rain, whatever this – the weather is going to suck this weekend. It's going from 80-something in Fort Mill to 50s on Saturday. I'm not sure how much different it'll
It's
be in
not going to be
Columbia.
fun. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be pretty cool.
My hope is that it's not at any point a doubleheader, because that kind of ruins things. Like, imagine your Thursday game, night game, prime time, gets moved to Friday afternoon. That
Right.
sucks.
Right.
So
right.
hopefully the Mother Nature, please,
Holds off. Yes.
hold
Give
on.
us 3 games over 3
Just for
days.
this weekend.
Give us 3 games in 3 days, Mother Nature. Yes.
And don't let Collyn have to cover 18 straight innings. Like, he did it 2 weeks ago, and he got to watch a lot of good baseball. But please, Mother Nature, let's be generous this weekend.
Yes.
So and I think it's Oh, sorry. One last point. If Carolina ends up winning this series, I think realistically they could take 2 out of 3. I don't know if they're sweeping the series, but oh my God, if they sweep this series, how can you not put them at number 1? It's kind of that kind of weekend.
Yeah,
it's like
I don't know if I'd pick South Carolina to win the series right now, just given how good LSU is. But there's a path. I mean, there's absolutely a path for South Carolina to win the series, and these are 2 top 10 teams, and anything can happen. And LSU's shown some vulnerability. Obviously, Tennessee beat them. They haven't gone undefeated. They're 6-3 in the league. They've won every series, but they haven't swept.
Yeah.
So this is their second road series. But if you sweep, there's an argument to be made of South Carolina being the number 1 team in the country. If they take 2 or 3, there's an argument to be without a doubt, a top 5 team in the country.
They will move up if they win the series.
But if they lose it, do you really drop them? You don't drop them out of the top 10, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. It depends how they lose the series. Like, if they're getting blown out game after game,
right?
Maybe you put them at like 11, 12. You can't drop them more than like 6 spots, I think. Yeah. But man, if they win this series, I think it also depends on how Vanderbilt does, because they're still undefeated in league play.
Yeah,
I can't remember who they have this weekend, but if South Carolina wins this series, much less sweeps it, and Vanderbilt drops a game or 2, then there's no discussion. I just think South Carolina should jump up to number 1. Maybe realistically, they'll probably go to like 2 or 3.
Right. And this is a big week for South Carolina, because not only do you have the LSU series, but you got a top 15 North Carolina team on a neutral site.
Yeah. People probably forget that North Carolina's good.
Yeah, North Carolina's a top 15 team right now. I want to say top 20.
I think they're 13.
Yeah, 13th in D1. They're 36th in the RPI right now. Vanderbilt's at Missouri this weekend. So
yeah, Missouri. Oof, they were.
So those injuries have killed that team right now.
Yeah.
They were effective, and those injuries just killed them. But
Luke Man can't carry the whole time.
If you're South Carolina, obviously you want to win Tuesday. You want to win all 4 games. But what does success realistically look like here? Is it the world's not going to go on fire if they go 1-3? Now, if they win, if they lose tomorrow and then drop the series to LSU or whatever, the world's not ending. They're still a really good team.
Well, hold on. The world might not be going on fire, but Twitter might go on fire.
Twitter might
fire Kingston and all that stuff, which is nonsense.
Yeah, after losing, however it might shake out, a game to a top-ranked team or a top 15 team, but 2-2 has to feel pretty good. However 2-2 happens.
Yeah, 2-2 I think is realistically it might be the case. It's just the way they struggled in Charlotte last time just makes me feel like, I went to the game last year, covered it when they played North Carolina. I think they lost on a walk-off or something. I can't remember. But North Carolina's good, man. I mean, I think realistically, South Carolina, if you go 2-2, great weekend. You go 1-3, whatever. It's going to happen. This team has bounced back so many times. And don't lose hope on this team just yet. But, man, realistically, I would love to see them go 3-1 this weekend. I think they can win 2 out of 3 against LSU. And I think they could beat that team tomorrow, North Carolina. So we'll see what happens. But, if stuff just goes wrong this weekend, and God forbid they go 0-4 this weekend, don't lose hope on this team.
The world is not ending. The world is not ending.
No. After that Clemson game, that game 1, everyone was like, fire Kingston, this and that. But just
the world is not ending.
believe.
Yes, and 2-2, great week. Great.
Yes,
That
100%.
means yes, 2-2 is a great week. 3-1, 4-0. I mean, four like that elite. But you'd like to go 500, and if you go 500, that means you've notched 2 quad 1 wins. And I believe all 4 games are quad 1 games. So
It should be.
Yeah. So regardless of what happens, you're only picking up quad 1 losses. These are not teams that are going to be outside of quad 1 for a very long time. So if ever. So if you're South Carolina, you feel pretty good about that. And I see Gamecock Chuck as we wrap up. Yes, South Carolina did blow out North Carolina last year, if I'm not mistaken. I believe Jack Mahoney had a home run in that game, if not a great game.
He did. I thought it was like a 2-1 game or something. I can't remember, but
no, I remember because I wasn't covering it. I forget what I was doing. That might have been a Michael Saul special that they covered. But I think South Carolina, it was just a really weird because South Carolina was coming off losing, obviously, or dropping a series or something. Yeah, South Carolina won 15-2 in Charlotte.
Wait.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
15-2, and they scored 7 in the 9th.
Dude, my memory sucks. Oh my God.
Yeah. They lost 2 straight to Missouri, come home, and they beat North Carolina 15-2. And yeah. So, yes. But alas, it is almost time. We're about an hour away from the world's latest national championship in men's basketball. For Jack, I am Collyn Taylor. All right, here we go. We're not going to pick tomorrow's game, but give me a prediction for this weekend. What does South Carolina do against LSU?
Yeah. Man, this is a series that could go either way. It's either
I agree.
Yes. I don't think they're getting swept. I don't think there will be a sweep at all in this series. Look, if LSU gets swept this weekend, that's awful. Like, that's just not a good look. And if South Carolina gets swept, okay, they lost to the best team in the country. You know,
right?
It's not like they're losing to UMass Lowell or Bethune-Cookman or something. They're losing to Louisiana State University, the LSU Tigers,
the national championship favorite right now.
Yes, and who also just won a women's national championship too. So, but yeah. So realistically, I think 2 out of 3 this weekend. I think you win. Actually, no. I take that back. I was gonna say they win Thursday. I think they lose Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday. I'm always getting this mixed up. Friday, Saturday, they find a way to win. Gutsy performances all around, and maybe there's another walk-off or 2 in there. This crowd better be electric. I think it will be. Rain or shine, it's going to make a difference this weekend. So 2 out of 3 is my pick.
Yeah, I'll go South Carolina loses the series, but they don't get swept. I think that they split the first 2, and then I think LSU wins the rubber match. But South Carolina's got a legitimate shot. If you told me, I don't think either team. I agree with you. I don't think either team sweeps.
No.
But I think if you're South Carolina, you got a chance to win this series. This is not, David and Goliath here.
Yeah.
So South Carolina, I think if you haven't asked me if I'm making a prediction, I'm going to say 2-1 LSU. But I really think South Carolina has a shot, and they're going to be – I think they're going to be in every single game as you get into the middle/late innings. And you're going to have to make some clutch hits and clutch pitches at some point. And both teams have been really good at that so far. So
yeah. If they were going to LSU, different story. But it's at home. Yeah. This team has been so good at home. So we'll see what happens. It's baseball. Anything can happen.
They haven't lost at home. I'm jinxing it.
Oh, my God. You totally are.
But they've been really good. They were good despite all of the struggles last year. South Carolina's they were good at home last year too.
Yeah, they beat Texas, Ole Miss, Vandy, I think. They're good.
I mean, they're big. They did not win a series on the road, but they beat, you beat A&M, or not A&M. You beat Ole Miss at home, who ended up winning the national title. You beat Vanderbilt at home. You beat Texas at home. You had some big series wins. So you hope that can continue. If you're South Carolina, you continue to play well at home. And if you told me, I don't think either team sweeps, but I think it's going to go to Sunday with it being a rubber, or Saturday being a rubber game, and we'll see what that looks like if they get all three in. But, Jack, do we want to go ahead and wrap this bad boy?
I think so.
That is this week's edition of Fowl Balls. I almost called it the Hard Foul, which is our basketball show. We will have you covered from top to bottom as South Carolina gears up to play North Carolina tomorrow, and what's going to be a much anticipated midweek matchup. And once again, as South Carolina gets ready to host top-ranked LSU in a matchup of top 5 RPI teams, LSU 4, South Carolina 5. It's going to be electric. I can't wait. For Jack, I'm Collyn. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Jack saluting. I'll salute. We will catch you again next week. Same time, guys.